Oh my God! He's on the floor. There's blood everywhere. Oh my God, he's just laying there. Oh my God.
I just felt like my soul had left my body.
I think we may have a homicide. They say that the deceased guy's name's Brad McGarry.
I'm trying not to freak out. I'm not supposed to see that, man.
We have a killer out there. We don't know if this is a serial killer or someone's going to kill again.
Because that's how angry he was.
That is your last lie and your last goddamn broken promise to me. You're a hole.
I have to tell Chief Aller this because this is going to change the whole investigation.
Your mind takes you to some dark, scary places. Was he laying there on the ground with bullets in his head? Nobody will ever know what he went through on that cold floor.
We were there when he was killed.
I did not kill him. I did not kill him.
Everybody in the world is going to think that you're a cold, calculated assassin.
Where is your emergency? Hi. We have an emergency. Okay, what's going on? Oh my God. My husband's friend is dead. Oh my God. Okay, calm down. Did you say he's dead? I think so. He's on the floor. There's blood everywhere. Oh my God, he's just laying there. Listen, I need you and your husband to back out of the residence and wait outside for the officers. Do you hear me? I'm gonna throw up. What is his name? Oh my God. Brad McGarry. Go ahead.
Within minutes, officers arrive on the scene.
I need you to try to calm down for me, okay?
I pulled up to the scene. I turned my body cam on. And I was going through my head what scenarios are going to play out. Everybody is on high alert.
Bel Air Police Chief Michael Kovalik takes the lead.
Someone finding a dead body in a residence in the West Bel Air area was something that the last thing we would expect. Just wondering what could have brought this about.
I didn't see one, Steve. I went in there, I seen him. The first thing I did was nail down the crime scene. The girl, she touched his neck. That was all she did. Nothing was moved. Nothing was touched. Upstairs, I believe. They say that the deceased guy's name's Brad McGarry.
Brad McGarry? I know Brad McGarry. He worked in a coal mine. I'd have to see a driver's license or something to verify.
It was kind of a shock to find out it was Brad McGarry. I knew him. This guy was a very nice guy.
See right here, Chief? It looked possibly an exit wound.
The victim was face down with what appeared to be a gunshot wound to the head. Of course, there was quite an amount of blood on the floor.
He's in rigor.
We didn't figure that it had been over 5 or 6 hours since he had been shot. There was no signs of any struggle of any sort. When we find someone that had been shot in the head, we consider a possibility of suicide.
Who found it? People outside.
Looking for answers, investigators turn to the people who discovered Brad dead.
Hey guys, what I'm going to do is get them people with the statement.
The people outside are David Kinney and his wife Sherry, the woman who called 911.
He's my best friend.
We had to start with the Kinneys. They're the ones that said they had found Mr. McGarry. They were our star witnesses.
Let you go from the beginning. How you come about coming out here?
I just talked with him. They had a wedding last night. My niece said, you guys come out whenever. And I called him. He didn't answer. And I told my wife, I said, let's just go ahead and go out there. I said, we come to the basement door and knock. Because my daughter knocked on the front door. I told her, I said, sis, go knock on the back door.
It was locked and no one came to the door. Kinney said he then told his daughter to go up behind to the back door of the house. She found the door open.
I went up right behind her and knocked on the back door. I noticed that the kitchen was scattered. There was stuff all over the place. I told my wife, I said, Sherry, something's wrong. There's something everywhere. And we went in, and I yelled for him, and We noticed everything that was messed up in the kitchen. Then we went into the living room, and then we noticed the coffee table in the living room, the drawers were all pulled out of it and everything.
And then he said, "You two stay here." He went down to the basement, and then he yelled, "Call 911."
He saw Brad, and Brad had obviously been shot and was deceased. He became very devastated.
We just took him and his family. You know, we celebrate holidays. We have a vacation in August. We're supposed to go on together with him.
I'm trying not to freak out. I'm sorry.
Word of Brad's death quickly filters out to his family and friends.
The day I found out that Brad was dead, I was at work that day and I got a call from our mutual friend. It was surreal. It is something that happens on TV and movies. It's not something that happens in real life. Brad was a big teddy bear, just a loving, cuddly guy. Brad was Uncle Brad to my kids. He loved my kids. He just was so creative and had a good heart and loved people.
My mom told me, and I fell to the floor. I was just crying. I couldn't get myself together. I just felt like my soul had left my body. Brad meant the world to me. He was just someone that I could count on to make me laugh or make me smile or just whatever I needed. He was there.
One of Brad McGarry's closest friends was David Kinney, the man who found Brad's lifeless body.
I'm trying not to freak out. I'm sorry. I can't not see him, man.
It is horrific for them to come up on such a scene like that. It was too much for them to handle. You can never get used to it. David Kinney showed a great deal of emotion. He expressed disbelief that his friend was gone.
How long you guys been married?
8, 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
My kids call him uncle. He's supposed to go to the Bahamas with us in August. We've done family vacations and everything.
We do holidays together.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
Suspecting suicide, investigators questioned the Kinneys about Brad's personal life.
Any problems with depression or anything like that?
In the past, he has some bad. I think at one point in time he was.
He was pretty happy. I don't know.
While investigators speak with David and Sherry Kinney outside, inside, officers pore over the crime scene, looking for the gun Brad might have used to kill himself.
But I don't see a gun, unless it's underneath him, and I didn't want to move him. Did you look at his neck? I didn't. But you don't know if it's underneath him or not? No, I don't. I never touched
One of the primary concerns of the crime scene search we're definitely wanting to find is the weapon used.
I have these guys coming, but I don't know if there's a gun underneath him or not.
In a lot of suicides, you'll see the victim fall on top of the weapon, or the weapon ends up underneath them. And we move the body around to do a search underneath the firearm.
I don't see a firearm.
We did not find one.
But they flipped him over. They didn't see a gun. If that's the case, it wasn't no suicide.
You have a gunshot victim and no gun. Somebody took the gun somewhere, and you're dealing with a homicide. We have a killer that is out there, and we don't know what their motivation is. We don't know if this is a spree killer, a serial killer, or someone's going to kill again. The hunt for who killed Brad McGarry was on.
Beloved friend and coal miner Brad McGarry has been found shot dead in the basement of his Bel Air, Ohio home. And with no gun found at the scene, investigators now realize they have a murder on their hands.
At this point in the investigation, we don't know a lot, but we have a killer that is out there, and we don't know what their motivation is.
Investigators continue their search of Brad's house, looking for anything that might lead them to their killer.
We started going through the upstairs and the bedroom. All the drawers were pulled out of the dressers. The place was pretty much thrown about, things thrown here, there, and everywhere.
Kitchen's been ransacked. Cupboards open here and stuff. Living room been ransacked a little bit. The spare bedroom, it looks like cluttered like everything else.
Brad collected what's referred to as country art, kind of the things you'd see at a Cracker Barrel country store. He had a great deal of it.
But when investigators take a closer look at the crime scene, questions arise.
A little bit of money laying here on the floor, $2 bill laying there, some pill packets, and a cell phone.
You know, there's cash money and brand new smartphones laying around. There's cameras still in boxes. There's nice TVs. These are all things I would expect to not be there in a burglary robbery type situation.
Must be his medicine cabinet because there's like pills strung down to here. A whole bag of change.
We didn't know exactly what we were dealing with. Things weren't adding up 100%.
If burglary wasn't the motive for this murder, then what was? At this point, detectives aren't sure.
Can you check in and see if there's any cameras on outside?
A canvass of the area was done, and one of the questions that we asked was, if we got any surveillance video. It could really help us narrow down our search for a suspect.
You guys have cameras out back?
Or double, triple checking some of the stories we've been getting to some of the witnesses.
They discover Brad's neighbor had his video surveillance system rolling on the day of the murder.
It was very exciting to hear. We can use that footage to nail down what time Brad returned home, what his travels were, what his habits were. That'll help us get to know Brad better. But you're looking at a very time-intensive period of going over hours and hours and hours of recorded video, trying to figure out what's relevant or not relevant.
Back outside Brad's house, Chief Kovalik looks for answers by continuing to press Sherry and David Kinney.
Did he have to say if he was expecting anybody or he might get an issue with her?
The last relationship he was in, it was pulled off and he hasn't been with anybody ever since. Who was the girl?
No, it was the guy.
He was in with the guy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, who was the guy?
Scott something.
Was there any bad blood there too?
I think just the regular relationship bickering and arguing.
Yeah.
Brad was a gay man, and David and Sherry Kinney had told us about a recent ex-boyfriend of Brad's who had the first name of Scotty, that there had been some friction and problems with, but the Kinneys didn't know Scotty's last name, so that's something that we definitely had to find out. And as he was leaving, David Kinney, put out his hand and grabbed my hand, and he squeezed it very tight, and he looked at me right in the eye and said, "Brad was the best friend I had in the whole world, and I loved him. Please find out who did this to my friend." And I told him that we would do everything we could to make that happen.